Luna and I exploded into the infirmary, nearly running into Alice, Clover, and Tenmyoji. Quark was there as well, of course, but he was just as we'd left him, asleep on the bed.
What are you doing here?
I opened my mouth to retort, then thought better of it. If I really wanted people to start trusting each other, well, real change Real change starts at home. As quickly as I could, I explained the second bomb and the memory card and how we come to the infirmary in the hopes we could discover the contents of the latter.
Okay.
Then stick it in already!
Go ahead.
Right. Just as Luna had said, there was a small slot under the screen, exactly the right size to fit a memory card. Within moments, the screen was filled with what appeared to be random letters. What is this?
6 rows, 22 letters each.
Hold on a second. I have Dio's transmitter right here in my green notebook, and it has a slew of numbers. It's possible I can use this to decode what these letters say, but the problem with that is I don't know how to pair them, because that's more than like 9 letters in a row. Unless it asks me to punch in a number, I don't know. It might do that.
It looks like the odd rows use one set of letters, and the even rows use another set. In other words, the first 2 rows just repeat. Yeah.
Is this some kind of code or something?
It doesn't look random to me. I think there might be a pattern. I just don't know what it is.
Was there anything else on there? No, it doesn't look like it.
So all we get is this gibberish. Hey Alice, you haven't said anything for a while. What's up?
Does any of this look familiar to you, Clover?
What do you mean?
Have you seen something like this before? Maybe during your training?
Training?
This is...
So you do recognize it.
All right, knock it off, you two. How about you share it with the rest of the class?
Alice sighed and stretched her neck from side to side.
I believe this is an encoded message from a terrorist organization.
What?
They call themselves the Myrmidons.
Yeah, and Dio has a knife with that written on it. You know, just throwing that out to share with everyone. So this proves that Dio is the one who set these bombs, if we didn't figure that out before by the fact that he had the code for the 0 bomb. Myrmidons. For some reason, I felt like I'd heard that name before. You have! In different timelines.
What are the Myrmidons?
Put simply, they're a bunch of thugs who are trying to destroy or dismantle most of human civilization.
Because they're assholes.
So this thing we're looking at, you think it's theirs?
Well, they have a number of different codes, but I do think this is one of them.
Then the bomb? It was set by one of the Myrmidons, wasn't it?
Yes. Well, I can't say for sure, of course, but it seems likely.
Damn, I have a ton of questions for you. But let me start with this one. What the heck does that thing say?
I don't know.
What?
How am I supposed to decode it? I don't have the key.
I mean, I do, technically. It's not in the game per se, but I have it written down.
Without a key, it would take literally hundreds of years to decode.
What about you, Clover?
Well, if Alice doesn't know how, I sure don't.
See.
Not much we can do then. We can come back to the code stuff later. I've got another question. Alice, Clover, who the hell are you? Why do you know about this code?
That's
You told me your job was to eliminate enemies of the state or something like that. Just what the hell kind of job is that? I think it's time you told us what you do.
Sorry, but I can't.
Why not?
Because you might be one of them. You might be the person who set the bomb.
That's idiotic! Of course I'm not!
Really? And where's your
The
proof?
fact I brought the fucking memory card here! I could have kept this all a secret to all of you!
For all I know, you're my enemy. I can't tell you anything.
I'm not your enemy! I'm your ally! I'm your friend! I just want all of us to get out of here! Just please tell us! Please. We need to find out who did this so we can all escape. But we have too little information. We need your help. Fine. If you won't tell us about yourself, then just tell us about the Myrmidons. What else do you know about them?
I'm sorry.
Before I could blink, she leapt up and run out of the room. Hey, wait! Alice! I took off after her.
How long are you going to keep following me?
Until you tell me what you know.
Then why don't you just ask Clover?
Clover?
You already know she works with me.
I don't think Sigma thought of that. Well, yeah.
Then why don't you...
I wanted to hear it from you.
Why?
That's a good question. Remember the crew quarters? Or this garden? We got paired up for 2 separate rounds. That means I've spent more time with you than anybody else here. Maybe that's it. I guess I'm just curious about you.
What are you talking about?
She spun around to hide it, but I caught a blush of red on her cheeks. You walked down the path to where it ended to the... Fuck! Why am I so fumbly today? Oof. You walked down the path to where it ended, next to the pond. I stayed silent. Alice sat down on the bench. We gazed at the smooth surface of the pond for several long minutes before she began to speak.
You don't hate me?
What? Why?
I tried to kill you.
You mean in the AP game?
Yes. I was so scared. Who wouldn't be? Kidnapped and locked up, forced to play some sort of bizarre game. And then we found that bomb. I know I probably sounded calm, but as soon as we found that thing, all I wanted to do was run away from it as fast as I could. Things just went downhill from there.
What do you mean?
I remember hearing that Quark had collapsed and running to the infirmary with everyone else. When I got there, I realized I couldn't understand what anyone was saying. And everything looked... I don't know how to describe it. It was like watching a video on fast forward, only it was real. Then I started to feel like... It's hard to explain. I guess you could say I didn't feel like I was myself, and it only got worse.
There was probably the Radical 6.
Yes, I think so. I don't remember much after that. But when I woke up in the infirmary, suddenly all that fear was back. So all I could think about was getting out of this place as fast as I could. It never even crossed my mind that it could kill you. God help me, even if it had, I don't think I would have cared. See? I'm horrible. You hate me, don't you?
I mean, I did before, but now it's difficult to. I mean, I get it. You were horrified. Of course you would be.
Just do it!
What? Do what?
Kill me! Get it over with!
What the hell, Alice? I'm not going to kill you! I don't even hate you!
You're lying! I could have killed you. I would have killed you.
Come on, calm down! No one's killing anyone! A single tear rolled down Alice's cheek. Then another, leaving shining lines across her face. When I reached out, I saw her tense slightly. Slowly, I brushed my thumb across her cheek and off, taking her tears with it.
Why are you doing this? You know, you kind of remind me of my father.
That's who you were after, right? The people who killed your dad?
Yes.
Did they have anything to do with the Myrmidons?
Will you promise not to tell Clover that I cried?
Come on!
If you keep your mouth shut, I'll tell you what you want to know. About myself, and about the Myrmidons. Deal?
Sure. My lips are sealed.
Really?
What crying? I don't remember any crying.
Good. All right then.
Alice took a deep breath and began. My father is Egyptian, but my mother is French. They met while my mother was in Egypt on vacation, and married shortly thereafter. When I was 3, we all moved to the US. My father was a scientist, and his field was cloning. He was recruited by an American lab, which was why we moved. Both of my parents had used English around me from the time I was born, so I didn't have any problems adapting to life in the United States. By my 9th birthday, we'd been there for 6 years. That was when it happened. In the middle of the day, my mother showed up at school. Her eyes were red and puffy, but she didn't say anything to me on the drive home. When we arrived, there were several policemen there to meet us. My father had always been a very punctual man, and when dinner time came and went with no sign of him, even I began to realize something terrible had happened. It wasn't until several years later that I'd finally learned the truth. My father's lab had been attacked by terrorists, and he had been kidnapped. For the rest of my childhood, my mother raised me by herself. I didn't realize it then, but it must have been incredibly difficult for her. As a single mother alone in a country where any relatives were transatlantic flight away. She did her best not to let me see it, but every so often when she thought she was alone, the mask would fall away, and every line of her face I could see exhaustion and loneliness. As much as I missed my father, it was those moments that had made me wish more than anything that he'd never been taken. Fortunately, I was an excellent student, and did especially well in math. I earned a full-ride scholarship straight out of high school, and spent the next several years studying. After graduation, I took a job with the Department of Defense, hoping they might have the resources to help me look for my father. I was immediately assigned to the Special Office of Internal Security. Their purpose is to investigate, and sometimes deal with, terrorist organizations and other serious threats to the state. I could tell my mother wasn't happy about my decision, but she chose to remain silent about it. Eventually, I learned that the terrorist organization that had taken my father was none other than the Myrmidons. Although at the time, that name didn't mean anything to me. They were suspected of human cloning. Specifically, it was thought that they had been using cloning techniques to copy their most useful members and expand their ranks. The Myrmidons apparently believed that they could use cloning to create a new race of humans. Now, at last, I knew the reason for my father's abduction. The commander of the Myrmidons is a man named Left. And his second in command, Right. Sorry, this is a very deep and emotional moment, but I couldn't resist. We know his name and his gender, but not his appearance or his age. The Myrmidons are closely associated with a cult known as Free the Soul. We believe that Free the Soul provides their funding. But trying to pin any kind of misdeeds on the cult leader, a man by the name of Brother, is like trying to nail Jello to a wall. Brother is supposed to be fairly advanced in years, and rumors say he's so old he can't even get out of bed. Unfortunately, his mind seems to be as sharp as ever. At that point, I hit a wall. I knew the Myrmidons had been behind my father's kidnapping, but that was all I could learn about them. Then, one day, I got a tip that some of them were hiding in a building in the Nevada desert. Oh yeah, it's the fake ship in the desert that the first game took place in. I headed out immediately. On the way there, my car had some engine trouble and stalled out. I was trying to decide what to do when an SUV appeared out of nowhere. I'll give you one guess who was behind the steering wheel. Clover. That was the first time we met. There were 4 other people in the car with her. And when I asked them what they were doing, okay, that seems like a typo, but okay. What they were doing, I got what was just about the last answer I'd expected. Oh, well, never mind. It makes sense now. For some reason, that didn't seem to mesh with me. They told me they'd been locked up inside of the very building I'd been on my way to investigate, and that they were currently in pursuit of other people who had kidnapped them in the first place. My priorities shifted very quickly. After a short discussion, I convinced them to allow me to come along. My hope was to find the people they were chasing, who I was certain were Myrmidons. In the end, however, we were unable to track them down. In fact, I still don't know where they might have gone. Eventually, I took Clover and her companions to the SOIS headquarters. We decided that involving the police would only complicate things. After some questioning, it was determined that the people who had instigated this particular event were not connected to the Myrmidons. We did, however, discover that the mysterious disappearance and subsequent reappearance of several children 9 years prior was connected to Free the Soul. There was also a 6th person in the SUV, although they weren't riding in it per se. A middle-aged man, who I'll just call H for now, had been bound and placed in the trunk. Right, I forgot that's where we left him. According to the other 4, he had been behind the disappearance of the children 9 years earlier. We also learned that his pharmaceutical company, a major player on the world stage, was effectively controlled by Free the Soul. More specifically, I suppose H was a member of Free the Soul, and very committed to their cause. So why had he kidnapped all those children? Apparently, it had been part of an experiment designed to test the ability of certain people to access what is called the morphogenic field. I don't imagine you've ever heard of it before, so I'll try to give you a quick rundown. Simply put, these people can access a sort of field that allows their consciousness to resonate with the consciousness of certain other people. To be honest, it might be simpler to just call it telepathy. The SOIS had heard about this particular ability before, and had actually used it in a number of investigations, so I wasn't surprised to learn of its existence. I was shocked, however, to learn that these experiments had been carried out by a member of Free the Soul. If that was the case, then Brother must have known about it. The thought of him discovering a way to control and harness that power was terrifying. It wasn't too long after the incident in Nevada that another tip about the Myrmidons crossed my desk. This time, it claimed that the Myrmidons intended to launch a large-scale biological terrorist attack. My bosses decided we needed more agents to deal with the threat of that magnitude, and Clover was recruited. Because she'd been a test subject in H's experiment, we knew she had the ability to access the morphogenic field, and we wanted to put that ability to use. After several months of training, she was sent on her first mission. She would be tasked with the infiltration and investigation of a Myrmidon cloning lab. I was assigned to be her commanding officer. I hoped that our investigation might also give me a lead on my father's whereabouts. At least, I had a chance to find out what had happened to him. I wouldn't let that chance pass me by. Perhaps that was what kept me from noticing the truth. The whole operation was a trap. The lab was fake, and Clover was captured almost immediately. I got there as fast as I could, but when I arrived, the building was only an empty shell. All of the conspirators who had pretended to be researchers and the like had already fled. I searched frantically for Clover until at last, in a basement room, I found her. She'd been tied to a chair, but on the floor next to her was another body. It was my father. He looked as if he had just been dumped there. When I got to him, his body was already cold. He was covered in dark, ugly bruises. It wasn't until later that I learned he had died from ruptured organs and internal bleeding. They had beaten him to death. As soon as Clover had been captured, a Myrmidon in a mask had come to visit her. He said that unless she wanted to end up like my father, she would leave them alone and tell her masters at the SOIS to do likewise. In retrospect, they must have known who I was and who my father was. That was why they'd killed him. Perhaps they thought they were sending a message to me. That once he was gone, I'd lose my reason for chasing them. They were very, very wrong. I took Clover with me and left. I tried to console myself with the fact that I had at least been able to save her. Sometime later, I received a call from the coroner. He told me there was something I needed to see. There in the morgue was my father, cold and pale on a steel table. I could barely stand to look at him, but the coroner insisted. On his arm were two rows of numbers, comprised of 8s and 9s. It took me a moment to recognize my father's handwriting. He'd carved them into his own skin. On his chest was another message, but they were letters this time, not numbers. Not many, just enough to make a short sentence. I love you, Alice. I broke down crying right there in the morgue. They were the first tears I'd shed since the operation had started, and there was no stopping them. There'd be no forgiveness. Not for the monsters who put my father through this. They destroyed my family. I would make them pay, even if I had to die to do it. That night, I made a promise to myself. I would avenge my father. It didn't take long to figure out that the numbers he'd written were latitude and longitude. They pointed to a chemical factory that had been disguised as an abandoned building. Further investigation revealed that it was the mother lode we'd been looking for, the headquarters of the Myrmidons. I think my father must have known how things would turn out. Knowing he was going to die, he'd written the directions on our enemy's fortress in his own body. He sacrificed too much for me to waste this opportunity with recklessness. This time, our operation would succeed. This time, I wouldn't let my excitement put Clover or any of my other agents in danger. So we took our time, we gathered information, we did our research, and we planned. Finally, we were ready. December 25th, 2028 was going to be the day we finally set foot inside the Myrmidon stronghold. But then, on the 22nd, only 3 days before the operation was scheduled to begin, a man in a gas mask appeared. So you inhaled that gas, passed out, and woke up here in the AP room?
Yes. Well, there it is. Everything that's happened with the Myrmidons and me. I left a few of the details out, of course, but you get the idea.
Yeah. Thanks. She gave me a sad sort of smile and stood up.
We should go back.
Not yet. Your story explained a lot, but there's still one big question.
Which is?
Who here is a Myrmidon? One of us planted the bombs. And based off the code we found, it's pretty clear that person is a Myrmidon. Right?
Yes.
And I agree we need to figure out who they are.
What do you propose we do?
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you about. Do you have any clues?
Clues? Well, if I could decrypt that code, it might tell us something, but...
How can we do that?
I told you. We need a key. Without that, it's pointless.
What's a key?
A key is a key.
Yeah, really, that's the dumbest question I think Sigma has ever asked. What's a key?
It allows you to sort of unlock a code.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, he may have been thinking of the key that unlocks a door, and that's what's made him confused.
Myrmidons usually use this huge string of numbers as a key.
What if I had a huge string of numbers? Wait, a long string of numbers? Could that be... Seven, 8, 1, 5, 3. Oh, I didn't have to write it down. 61098. 83809. 42419. 90551. Yep, that's the code, all right.
What the hell?
I was almost as surprised as she was. The numbers had just kind of appeared in my mind, and I was saying them before I knew what I was doing. Alice looked at me incredulously, and I stared back.
Wait. Can you say that again?
78153 61098 83809 42419 90551.
That's 198,449,351 to the third power.
What?
That number you just told me. Prime factor decomposition on that number gets you 198,449,351 to the third power.
You're talking about reducing an integer to a series of prime numbers that you multiply together to get it? Right? Like, if you have 30, then you get 2 times 3 times 5, right?
Exactly. You probably learned that in junior high, right?
Probably, but I've literally never used it for anything in my entire life. So you're saying that the number that you said, I'm not going to read it again, that would be 3 times you heard it, is a prime? But if you multiply it by itself 3 times, you'd get 7815361098838094241990551.
Yes.
Don't tell me you just did all that in your head. Lord knows I wouldn't have been able to do it in my head.
I did do all of that in my head. Simple mental arithmetic.
That's simple to you? What? No! No way! That's impossible!
I told you. I'm better at math than most people.
Accurate! That's not better at math!
Look at you. You just recited a huge string of numbers. That seems pretty astounding, too. Where did you find that number anyway?
I didn't know what to say. What should I tell her? That it just came to me?
Can't tell me, huh? Fine. I'm pretty sure that's the key to the code, though. I know the Myrmidons use prime factors for their keys. And there aren't a lot of 25-digit numbers that turn out to be the third power of a prime number. I think there's a very good chance that number you memorized was specifically created by someone.
Could you explain that with small words?
Well, look at the prime factors of your number. 198,449,351 to the third power.
Oh good, more numbers.
I think that's our hint for cracking the code. You still don't get it? Try to remember the code we saw in the infirmary. What did it say on the monitor?
I think the first row was CQUJHNMTEONERAXDFMIOVP.
And the second row?
BYOLWXYPXSVZEQGTKRTLED. I don't know how he fucking remembers that, because I sure as fuck didn't. I think. Then they just repeated. Oh yeah, they did, didn't they?
Wow, you've got a pretty impressive memory.
Yeah, Sigma sure as fuck does.
We could really use someone like you back at the...
Well, keep going. How do we decode that?
You use 198,449,351 to point you to the right letters.
How do we do that?
Well, the first number is 1, so take the first letter. The next number is 9, so go 9 letters over from the first one. Then 8 from that one.
You know, it'd be interesting to do this on my own time, to like take bit and pieces like that. But I think I'm just gonna let her give us the answer. Because she's gonna.
Just keep going until you get something. Make sense?
I ran over what she'd said in my head. The prime numbers... The prime number Alice had given me was... Hold on, I'm checking. 198,449,351. So, what would we get if we picked out letters like she'd explained? The first letter would be C from top left. Then you'd move to 9 to the right, which would give you O. Then 8 more to the right. Eventually we'd get a word. And that word was... Fuck! How dare you make me do it! Oh man, I was really hoping it wasn't gonna make me do this. Fine.